Paper Mario Color Splash. It's one of the most divisive Mario games ever, I'd say, because unlike even Sticker Star, where most people dislike it, it's a really split game. It's kind of like the Super Paper Mario of its time, I guess, where a lot of people love it for specific stuff, but other people hate it also for specific stuff. I guess the main things people don't really like about the game is the battle system, the repetition of Toads, and the lack of XP points. However, the music and the writing is fantastic, and there are some really great levels. As for the battles, I think they're pretty fun, even with their flaws. So without further ado, let's get into my ranking of all the levels in the game, because they are pretty fun. Number 32 is Chateau Chanterelle. Now, this level is pretty basic. It comes in the second chapter, I guess you'd call it, of the Yellow Paint Star. And in this one, basically, there's a professor sad in his house because he lost his dog Princess, so you have to go into the woods, in Mondo Woods, another level, looking for her. It's kind of funny how she's just a huge chain chomp. But other than that, there isn't really much to like about the level. There is the Bone Thing card, though, and you know how people feel about Thing cards. I think they're pretty cool, although it can be really annoying when you don't have the right one. There's another cool puzzle where you have to use the side of a barn, I think, to climb stairs with the cutout feature. But other than that, yeah, I don't really have much to say about the level. Oh, the music is pretty good, though. 31, Indigo Underground. It's a pretty typical underground level, so it couldn't really have been that high. There's some nice waterfalls, some rising and sinking blocks, typical stuff, I guess. There's also a Lemony Crush enemies, which is pretty funny, and you also get to see the first time what the Rescue Squad can really do, as they form a bridge for you. And the Rescue Squad is basically Toads you find across the game, who wear these scarves and outfits. So yeah, not bad. The music is okay, I suppose. Nothing that memorable. 30, Ruddy Road. It's the first true level of the game, and it's pretty good at what it does. It introduces the really fun mechanic of painting, which, man, that gets addicting. You also see all those Shy Guys and Slurp Guys slurping up the paint around the area, which is pretty cool. You have these bridges made out of tape. But the coolest part of the level is when a bunch of the Shy Guys start rolling up the road, and it turns into this huge loop, and you can even crush the Shy Guys, which is pretty cool. You also get the fire extinguisher thing here, and the music is pretty cool. So overall, it's a pretty great first level. 29, Port Prisma. This is the hub for the game, and it's pretty memorable. As you progress further and further, there's more and more characters, and it feels more and more lively. Sure, it's a lot of Toads, but they're pretty interesting. Even if it seems like they look generic. You also have different areas to go to, such as a dojo, a museum, which I'm currently working on completing. It's the first place where you learn about battling, and it's where the story of the game really kicks off, because you try to find out who was sucking up the color of the world, and the Toads. So, anyways, it's pretty cool. You get more and more paint stars. They show you their memories. There's a shop. There's a bunch of pretty cool stuff. And overall, it's just a pretty good level. 20. Oh yeah, the music's great too, but that goes without saying. 28, Cherry Lake. Now, this level has some really nice music, and it's also very pretty. It's early on, so nothing too challenging. There's a bunch of water wheels, and there's also a Toad who loses his clothing, which is pretty cool and funny. You learn Cutout. There's a huge fan, and I'm pretty sure it's the first thing in the game, so that's pretty cool. There are also some soggy Shy Guys. You learn about the ones that can stack. So yeah, there's a lot to the level. It's pretty great. Oh yeah, and then there's also Justice Toad, which is the Toad who loses his clothes, who just magically gives you the star by bringing it closer. This one right here. Pretty cool. 27, the Crimson Tower. The boss levels in this game are fantastic, but this one is not really. It's okay, I guess. It's your typical first castle level. You have some enemies, some conveyor belts. It feels like something out of New Super Mario Bros., which, yeah, isn't too good. The music is alright. I do like how you go on an airship before you get into the actual tower, which is pretty cool. As for the boss battle we have against Morton here, yeah, it's a pretty solid boss. I mean, you have to take down Morton, who's on top of this pedestal, or as he calls it, pedal stool. And then his hammer bursts into flames, which is where you need the fire extinguisher. The problem with some of these thing cards is you don't really know the exact timing to use them, and once you use them, they're gone. but it wasn't really too annoying here because it was pretty obvious what time you had to do it. It's when his hammer bursts into flames. Oh yeah, and you also get the huge cattle luck at the top of the tower. So, as far as first boss levels go, not terrible. 26, Cobalt Base. There really isn't anything to this level other than, of course, Sniff It or Whiff It, the game show from Sticker Star. This is the Seabed edition. The music is as catchy as ever, but here, instead of having to worry about poison, here you have to worry about a giant urchin that gets closer and closer every time you answer a question wrong. And if you lose enough questions, well, you could see. Anyways, though, it's a pretty fun one. I do like the writing. And you also have to do some pretty fun mini games, such as choosing the right cards you see appear or filling them in. It's pretty cool stuff. Oh, another thing though I don't really like about the level is that you need a perfect game for a required thing, the camera, for a later on boss fight. So that's annoying. 25, Blue Bay Beach. A pretty fun beach level early on. In this one, there's an ocean fest, there's a lot of different secrets, and you get to do some fun hiding Toad and Go Seek. There's also a pretty funny moment where the game is rigged, the Toad Shuffle game. Blissful Beach is pretty relaxing. I like how you can sit down on one of the chairs. The music is great. And of course, there's also that Toad who's surfing, which is pretty funny. One of the chosen Toads. 24, Mondo Woods. No, the idea of having a forest with giant things in it isn't really anything new to Mario, but it is still pretty cool. You have giant blocks, giant enemies, all due to the magic of Kamek. It's pretty cool, and I like how wonky the place feels. And I also like how there's a huge coin you fill in later, and it's just worth 1 coin. That's funny. 23. Kiwano Temple. So, this one is actually pretty tricky, considering it's only in a second area, I believe. There's a bunch of spinies here, a bunch of spikes you need to roll on platforms to survive, which is pretty cool. Near the end, though, you do have to do, like, 2 paint stars that are kind of similar, which is kind of annoying, since you have to go the same way for most of the level. It's a little annoying. Anyways, though, there's a mini boss fight against a big spiny, which is okay. And I like how you use a star to take out a bunch of spinies. Overall, it's surprisingly challenging. Not amazing, but good. 22, Sunglow Ridge. The music is lovely here, and you also learn the Unfurl power, which is where you use your hammer to hit certain objects with certain markings. It's an okay mechanic, they get a good use out of it. It's a pretty nice looking level too, it feels like a picnic, something out of the Origami King. Anyways, though, the ending of the level, there's a huge bonsai bill that just takes out so much black paint on the area, and Huey magically cleans it up, which also foreshadows the end of the game. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, too late to say spoilers, but surprisingly this game is over 7 years old, which is insane. 21, Daffodil Peak. It's pretty similar to the level we just talked about, but it feels a little more adventurous, like you're climbing a mountain or, you know, a peak. You go through a bunch of different pipes, you use the Unfurl power too as well here. And also the mountain stage ends up just being one of the guys who works there, I believe, which is pretty funny. 20, Sacred Forest. Musically it's pretty catchy, and it's basically Mondo Woods but in reverse. Mario is huge compared to everything around him. That makes it pretty fun against a bunch of huge mini Goombas. Well, they're not huge, of course, but a huge amount of them. It's pretty fun, the music is silly, and I like how Mario just smacks Huey with the hammer. That's funny. 19. Red Paper Crater. So, this level is okay. I've heard people say they don't like the 6th area, which is basically the green paint star area, because the first half isn't really green, it's just red. I guess that makes sense. Honestly, it's a little jarring, but oh well. It is still a typical kind of volcano level, but it is cool. You have some enemies here, such as the spike tops, which can be a little annoying. Some of these blocks that move around. There's also a huge, like, hair dryer, along with a, kind of like a resort, not really resort, like I don't know what you call it. Hot water, I'm not thinking properly. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. 18, Moss Rock Theater. One of the final levels of the game, and it's pretty great. I love the fog and the music and just the look of the level. It's very mysterious and also foreboding for the upcoming circus. The juggler music is, very catchy. And you also see a shy guy you can even defeat from a previous level you have a heart-to-heart with. Kind of sad to see. Anyways, though, it's a pretty great level. 17, Plum Park. Now, the music here, after you clear everything up, is kind of sad, like melancholy, like with the violin. But before, it's pretty cool. And throughout the level, there's a bunch of poison. You gotta find the source. You end up taking down Petey Piranha, who's in a teapot, which is pretty cool. The level looks pretty nice. I like how there's like a maze with puzzle pieces as hedges. That's pretty cool. I also like how it ties into the mansion, and how you need the tea for Dark Blue Moon. You also have lily pads and flowers to float on, I think. I might be wrong. It's a pretty cool level. 16, the Golden Coliseum. This is the location of Iggy's boss fight. It's a pretty cool one. There's some fights you can take part in beforehand. You go through the different stages. You have to be careful to maneuver around fuzzies as you're inside the Coliseum. And the boss fight itself is pretty great. You can use the bone at the wrong time, which can be annoying, but you have to distract the chain chomps so you can defeat Iggy. He's pretty funny, and I like how the Kooplings are much more dynamic characters here in this game compared to others. So yeah, pretty great level. 15, Marmalade Valley. This is one of the first levels I played in the game that really got me into it. It's a pretty great one. It's not a typical desert level. It's a cannon that's also an excavation site. You end up finding Princess, that big dog here, which is pretty funny because Huey gives you a heart-to-heart about how he'd do anything to save Mario, and then he just leaves him for dead. That's kind of funny. Anyways, though, the huge skeleton of the Dragodon ends up being useful here, which, later on, because it ends up being an alive Dragodon, which is pretty cool. Overall, it's a pretty great level. Oh yeah, and it also introduces, since it is still kind of early on, introduces the later on idea of, the train from the Sunset Express, which is pretty cool. So, some nice foreshadowing there. 14, Violet Passage. Now, say what you want about this game, but you can't deny that Chapter 4, aka the Purple Paint Star area, is pretty great. Now, pirate chapters we've seen before in Paper Mario, such as Thousand Year Door, but this one is like no other. The music is so ominous here at the start, and after filling in the sea with paint, throughout this level, you need to use the legendary captain's maps, which is pretty cool, to guide your way through these minigames, such as shooting down coins or like targets, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty fun puzzle level, and it just works really well, and I like the idea of having this ship to traverse. Now, I do think the whole idea of the sea chapter is done better in Origami King, but this is a pretty good predecessor. 13, Lighthouse Island. There were 3 levels that had the idea of the anti-world, I guess you call it, or the vortex. Well, not the vortex. But basically you flip to another side where everything's gloomy and dark and weird. Now, I don't think this level's use of it is that creative. It does make the lighthouse darker in some places. Speaking of which, it's pretty cool how there's like a dance party after you get the lighthouse in. After you get the light bulb going. It's an okay level, not bad. I just think the other levels of the chapter could be better. 12, Red Paper Volcano. This is better than Crater because you get to ride on Dragodon. Well, that's not it. You get to feed him a burger. Well, more than that, it's just a fun level. It's pretty challenging. It is a volcano level, so nothing new to Mario, but still pretty cool. 11, Vortex Island. So the whole vortex that you see throughout this level, there's a paint star above it, and it turns out the twist is it's just a washing machine doing laundry, which is pretty funny. Did I mention the game's funny? Yeah. So it introduces this idea of the anti-world, and being the first one to do it, it feels the most fresh here, and really well done, probably better than Lighthouse Island. Also, you fight a bunch of enemies who are having their clothes washed, so yeah, funny. 10, Mustard Cafe. This is a pretty fun level because you have this partner along the way, this toad who refuses to get back to his work at the cafe. You fill in a huge spot of paint at one point, and there's just a huge hole in the ground that opens up. You have to save this toad, bring him back to his cafe, and along the way he learns some humility after being imprisoned by Sniffets along with Mario. It's a pretty cool one, actually, and I like the different pipe puzzles and stuff here. and going around throughout the prison. It is a pretty interesting level. 9. Dark Blue Inn. I misspelled that. Please ignore that. Anyways, this is a pretty fun level. It's a haunted mansion, and you know how I feel about those in Mario games. They're pretty cool. The music is pretty mysterious here. If there's one thing I don't really liked about the level too much is that you're kind of on a timer in a weird way. Because once the clock reaches 3, I think, that's when you get reset or kicked out. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. But other than that, it's a pretty cool level. You have to find the ghost toads, which is pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna go off track here a little bit. So the game's funny, but I think one of the funniest moments was, so there's this bird, the game calls it, this ghost toad that looks for his bird, and I think it's in an egg, and you finally get it, or it might be birdseed, something like that. It's pretty funny, and the bird ends up being a paratrooper, which is weird, but I guess that would make sense for Mario. And you return it, you can talk to him, he says, "I ain't no stinking bird." And it's just, it's not as funny because I'm explaining it, but I'm getting way off track here. It's a pretty fun level though. And it's also cool that how the game gave some backstory on the toads who plan to have a tea party together. So, yeah, great level. Sorry for the story. 8. Fort Cobalt. This is Ludwig's level, and it's pretty great. It's this whole Metal Gear Solid thing. Everything's very, like, industrial. There's a bunch of toads here, as you can see. The Sniffets even force the Shy Guys and the toads to exercise, which is funny. Makes for fun battles. You also have a bunch of these weights. Oh no, you just have one. You have to be careful of when you're trying to picking the right fence to go through. Then the boss fight against Ludwig is pretty great. So basically what you're doing is, you need to use your Tanuki tail. You find a bunch of these throughout the level. And you swipe back the cannonballs from the ship, which is only half built, which is funny. The music is great. You just heard it. It's the previous track. It's a pretty fun boss battle. Now, coincidentally, I had the balloon thing card, and if I didn't, it would have been way more annoying, but you need it during the battle after you turn into a submarine. So, yeah. It's a fun boss fight, but, yeah, the thing cards can be annoying. 7. Toad Train Works. This is a pretty great level. The music is super catchy. So throughout the level, you need to fix the train, and there's a bunch of cool stuff you can do, such as getting the coal back, fighting some Shy Guys. And then there's that part of the level a lot of people know, even if they haven't played the game. And the toads get really angry because their train has been stopped and delayed for a long time. So they all start hitting Mario in a row and saying stuff like, "Luigi wouldn't have done this to us." And there's that one toad who just says, "My wife left me," which is, yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty great level. The music is catchy. And I also like, it's a pretty heartwarming moment where I think it's the conductor, the train engineer. That was his last job, which is pretty cool. I like the overarching stories throughout the game. They were pretty cool. 6. Fortune Island. This is the level of Wendy, and it also reminded me of Origami King because it's like Bonehead Island. So they make a pretty great use of the anti-world here. The music is very catchy, especially for Wendy. Now, that camera card you need, that camera thing card you need a perfect game on Sniffer with it. The game doesn't really tell you that too obviously, so that's annoying. Luckily I had it, but other than that, yeah, it's a pretty great level. 5. Tangerino Grill. So this is the level with the giant steak that you fight, which is, yeah, you have to season it, you gotta grill it, you gotta tenderize it, you gotta add lemon. It's great stuff. Before you do that though, you make a pizza, which is pretty cool, and it's overall a pretty memorable level for this reason. And you have to feed the VIP, who we end up finding out soon enough. Music is pretty great. It's just a great level. So next up is 4, Green Energy Plant. Now I have to admit, the level doesn't really make sense, honestly, in terms of the story, because it doesn't really connect in with most of the other Green Paint Store area stuff. But nonetheless, it is a cool level. I can't deny that. So Huey gets struck by lightning after you try to conduct electricity here. But the main part about the level that you go through is a remix of not only Super Mario Bros. 3, like kind of the levels, the music, and the different areas, but even the flipping mechanic from Super Paper Mario. I love that game, so this is a very nice thing to see. And it's easily a very memorable level, and I like how they even remix the music. It's pixelated. So, yeah, it's a pretty great level. 3. The Sunset Express. So this is Larry's boss level, and it's a pretty great one. So throughout this one, you go into different train cars, and trains, like hotels in Mario games, are just really fun. So in this one, you have to do things like avoiding Shy Guys, sneak around the train. There's a sombrero guy from Sticker Star that you have to fight, which is pretty cool. He plays some music. It's overall a pretty cool level. As for the boss fight against Larry, I like how he just comes in, like, sitting on the train, and just shoots right by you, which is pretty funny, after you're holding the Toads hostage. His fight is pretty cool, because he has these Shy Guys bring him hearts through I'm blanking out here. Basically, where the steam comes out of the train. The fog thing. You know what I mean. Anyways. It's pretty cool because you wonder how you're going to defeat him if he keeps getting restored his health. But what you need to do is take on his enemies so this Toad can get farther and farther across. Which is pretty cool. He's the conductor. And he takes out the Shy Guy, and you can finally fight him later for real. I had some annoying moments in the level because I didn't know when I needed to use the cork thing card at the right time. But other than that, it's a pretty great one. 2. The Emerald Circus. So, yeah. The Emerald Circus is a really great level. It's one of the last ones in the game, technically second to last. So throughout the level, before you could even get into the circus itself, you need to gather, I think, 50 of the Toad Rescue Squad, which can be a daunting task, but still pretty cool. A lot of them just come from the Sunset Express. Anyways, though, once you get in the level, there's some Yoshis that run amok and they'll take your cards when you're fighting a bunch of these characters and acts. Huey's Tin Can impression is very funny. Fighting the Shy Guys on a unicycle, seeing the Rhino Dinos from Mario World is cool. Mario's act by turning huge with the mushroom. And then, of course, there's the fight against Lemmy. Now, the music is great, I can't deny that. And he is a fun character, but man, you really gotta know what you're doing with the thing card right here. Otherwise, it is annoying, and it was annoying for me. The main problem I had with it is just you needed to know the right time and during the right phase to use not one, but 2 particular thing cards, which is kind of annoying. Anyways, though, it is a pretty cool one, and I do like the circus theme. So other than the annoyances I had with Lemmy's fight, it is a really great level. And finally, number 1, Black Bowser's Castle. Final level in the game. After getting all the paint stars, Luigi takes you up on this rainbow road, which is pretty funny and cool reference to Bowser's Castle. It's a huge factory with these bombs and black paint being made. And throughout the game, Bowser only really wanted a rainbow-colored shell, but he ended up being possessed by the black paint, which is a pretty cool concept, actually. You see it throughout the level here. You have to disguise yourself as one of Bowser's minions. You need to blow up a bunch of these bombs, which is pretty cool. You have to escape the black paint. It's a really ominous and just really fun level. And then it's a fight against Bowser. And it's really great. The music is fantastic. So basically, early on in the fight, you take on Bowser, but he ends up revealing his true self, and it's pretty goofy compared to his more serious self controlled by the black paint. Then, so Huey turns himself back into his normal form when he's not made out of paper, but he's a real can. And he sucks up the power of Bowser's black paint when you block correctly, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty intense fight, and the ending is pretty sad after saving Peach, where Huey absorbs all the power of the black paint from the castle, and he goes off somewhere. Hope you're safe, Huey. Anyways, though, It's a bittersweet ending to a game that I really didn't expect to be as great as it was. Yeah, sure, a lot of the thing cards annoyed me in some battles, and some levels were better than others, of course. But the music, the writing, and overall just the levels and the experience of the game were really great. And overall, I definitely think it's worth a playthrough, even if you have some biases or judgments against it. Thank you for watching and have a good day.